Hello, welcome to our assembly this week. Yesterday I thought we were going to have to say goodbye to our car. Dorothy was driving it to go and get some shopping, and the battery light came on, and she called me, and I came along, and we decided we'd drive the car up to Dr. George to see if we could get it fixed. And I drove her car because the power steering had gone, and she was driving my car, and we drove the car up, and it just completely stopped and gave up altogether. And we had to leave it at the side of the road at the top of a hill in the middle of nowhere, completely lost. Not even Dr. George could find it at first, but eventually he found it, and it's with him now, and we're hoping we'll see it again fixed. It's hard sometimes to say goodbye to something. We've had that car for a long time, and we hope we'll have it for longer still. But saying goodbye can be hard, can't it? I'm here in a graveyard, and it's very hard to say goodbye to those we love. And Jesus knows that. And do you know that's why he came? He came so that we might be able to say goodbye to goodbyes forever. How do we know that? How do we know that Jesus came so that we can say goodbye to goodbyes forever? Well, one time one of Jesus' friends got sick. His name was Lazarus, and his sisters, Mary and Martha, they sent for Jesus to come and help. And it was a bit like they put their hand up in the classroom and asked for help from the teacher. I wonder what your teacher does when you put your hand up and ask for help. When I was at school, I had a teacher called Mrs. Parry, and if I put my hand up, I was probably putting it up too many times, she used to say to me, is it bleeding or dying? In other words, put your hand down, it's not that important. But for Lazarus, this really was important. The sisters could have put their hands up and said, no, this is bleeding or dying. He is dying. Our brother is sick. Please come, Jesus. And yet Jesus didn't come straight away. We think that that's very strange. He loved him. So why didn't he come? Well, Jesus said that it was actually for some great reason he was staying away. And he actually stayed away long enough that Lazarus died. And when he got there was weeping, and everyone was sad, and the sisters came out to Jesus and they said, Lord, if you'd been here, our brother wouldn't have died. And yet we believe in you. And Jesus said to them, to Mary and to Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. But even though Jesus knew he was the resurrection and the life, and even though he knew he was about to do something amazing, when he got to the tomb and he saw everyone there at the graveside, they were weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit, and he wept as well. Jesus felt the pain of these people, and he was angry at all the suffering that had come into this world, and the death and the pain, and he'd come to do something about it. How do we know that? Well, because he came to the tomb, and he walked up to the tomb, and he said, Lazarus, come out. Now, what's going to happen if I tried that? Nothing would happen. But when Jesus said, Lazarus, come out, the dead man came out, alive again. And he said, unbind him and let him go. This was just the most amazing thing. This man who'd been dead for 4 days, well, when Jesus called him to come out of the tomb, he came out. And you know that shows us something wonderful, that Jesus has power and authority over death. That he has power and authority to say goodbye to goodbyes. That he came so that one day we'll be able to say goodbye to goodbyes forever. But how do we know that Jesus' resurrection of Lazarus means we're going to be raised as well? Because Lazarus actually went on to die again. But the wonderful truth is Jesus himself would die and rise again. And he promised that all who trust in him, even though they will die, they will rise again to a wonderful new heaven and a new earth. And that's what we'll think more about at Easter time, as we remember that Jesus came to die for us and rise again to give us new life. Well, I hope that we get to see our car again and we don't have to say goodbye forever. But the wonderful truth for those trusting in Jesus is that he came so that we can say goodbye
to goodbyes forever.
Well, children, the challenge this week is a bit like Lazarus was wrapped up in probably grave clothes. I'd like you to wrap up something and take a picture of it wrapped up maybe in grave clothes, in a cloth or a toilet roll, or maybe even a sibling. You could wrap them up inside the toilet roll, and you can take a picture of them inside the toilet roll and then take another picture of them outside of the toilet roll
To remind us
that Jesus came to say goodbye to goodbyes
forever. By raising Lazarus from the dead, he showed he had the power and authority over death. And it means we can trust his words. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. And so we can say goodbye to goodbyes forever.